I welcome you again to my YouTube channel, Kenny's School of Law. My name is Kehinde Adegbite. This evening, I will be having a discussion titled Career Opportunities for Nigerian Lawyers in the 21st Century. And I do hope that those who have not subscribed to the channel will do so, because more interesting videos, educative and informative, are on the way. My discussant this evening is no other person than Mr. Oluseun Abimbola, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Mr. Oluseun Abimbola, I welcome you, sir.
Good evening, Kehinde. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Oluseun Abimbola is a respected Nigerian lawyer. He's a former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice of Oyo State. He's also a former chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association Ibadan branch, and currently is the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association section on legal practice. It is my pleasure having you on this platform. I know for sure that the information that we are going to share today will be quite enriching. Now, sir, I have made this observation over time. I noticed that most Nigerian lawyers, they focus mainly on 3 areas of career opportunities in the profession. And those 3 areas are private practice, working with Ministry of Justice, which is official bar, or joining the academia. I have known that there are so many other areas, but they are less focused on. I don't know, sir, whether you have made the same observation. But before you speak about that, sir, who is a Nigerian lawyer?
Well, thank you very much for having me. That's an ambiguous question. I say so because you could say a Nigerian lawyer is a Nigerian trained lawyer.
Okay.
Which means that if you were privileged to pass through legal training in a Nigerian university and the Nigerian law school, then you're a Nigerian lawyer. Another school of thought will tell you a Nigerian lawyer is a Nigerian that is a lawyer, irrespective of where he's trained, whether trained within our shores or trained abroad. As far as he's a Nigerian, he's a Nigerian lawyer. So that's why I say it's a bit ambiguous. So I guess when the occasion demands, you can describe yourself as a Nigerian lawyer as might be fitting for whichever circumstance you need to make that description.
Yes, I asked that question because I'm trying to see how we can start on an elementary note, given the fact that lawyers, non-lawyers, law students, aspiring law students are also watching this and they follow videos on the platform. But I think you have cleared the hair to a large extent, and if there is need for you to throw more light, I know you won't hesitate to do so, sir. Now, as I said in my observation, that I have made that, or I don't know whether you agree with that or you disagree.
Well, I agree with you that those 3 focal areas have been the traditional focus of lawyers in Nigeria. And that may not be a surprise, because in any sector of any economy in any country, or even the economy of any country itself, it will generate the kind of responses that sectoral players, stakeholders also manifest. For instance, whether it's in size of economy or the sophistication of the economy, all those indices will play out to determine what nature of legal services we can offer in Nigeria. So if you come out of the university, you come out of the law school, the natural inclination will be either you go into private legal practice in a law firm, as we know it, or if you want to go through in the academia, then you enlist back in one of the institutions as a law teacher, or you might just go straight into public service and end up in the Ministry of Justice somewhere. Those three were traditional. But I think with the diversification, sophistication in our economic environment, we have started to see the space open up. And many lawyers now have subsets of some of those fields, or even totally new fields of practice, fields of endeavor, even when they are leaving the law school, that they have in mind to explore. And of course, that will take you to those who are in-house counsel, for instance, in the corporate environment. It's not private practice, but they are in advisory and they do other work in-house in corporations and companies. And then you also have those who, even though they want to do some legal research, but they are not necessarily inclined towards being a law teacher. And so you find them in institutions of a different sort, Institute of Advanced Legal Studies as research assistants, or even being research assistants to judges, and they move on from there till they find what they think is their forte. And then you also have those who might even be interested in public service, but not necessarily in the Ministry of Justice, particularly now that you have other sectors of the public service that also require the services of skilled legal practitioners. Even if you want to be a prosecutor, it does not mean I have to go to Ministry of Justice. I could go to EFCC. I could go to NDLEA. I could go to NAPTIP or any of the agencies that also have prosecutorial powers and be a prosecutor there, not in the Ministry of Justice. And of course, there are also a few other areas of interest that people have started discovering. ADR has offered a couple of additional options. You could actually find yourself being a legal practitioner working with any of the multi-law courts, or working with any of the institutions offering ADR services, whether it's Nigerian Institute of Chartered Arbitrators or the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK, or any of the other institutions, Lagos Court of International Arbitration. And so the space begins to open up. Again, the widening of the economy in the last several years also opened up new practice areas in fields like capital markets, taxation, telecommunications, and the regulators of these areas also require legal services. And so you have people who have developed special skill sets in regulatory and compliance practice, and they are working with FIRS, they are working with NCC, they are working with all those other institutions. So I guess you're right that those are the traditional, but then the space is opening up, and I believe will continue to open up.
Thank you, sir. Now, sir, I don't know whether you have also not noticed that these areas that we regard as the traditional focal areas, whether they have not become so saturated that it appears as if there is no much space again. And as a result of that, we have some lawyers doing things that might be regarded as unethical and unprofessional. So I don't know whether you have noticed that, the fact that that is what those areas are where people focus on, and they don't look at some other areas.
You mean that the number of lawyers have developed some unethical practice, because we broke off a bit?
Oh, yes. Well, I don't want to use the popular word or the popular phrase that people call charge and bail, especially in private practice. So I'm thinking that maybe because we have so many lawyers who don't look elsewhere, they concentrate on private practice, and as a result of the competition, So they go into this unethical practice, whether that is what is responsible for it.
Well, people usually blame their wrongdoing on the highway, gives the reasons why he collects bribe as the fact that his salary does not take him home. The other corrupt public officer says because he's not sure of getting a pension. And so any lawyer who says because, oh, there is not much work out there is the reason why I have to do some unethical practice is no different from every other wrongdoer, the reason for doing. If we're all to blame the economics of our reason for our lives to do right, because everybody has a challenge economically. There's nobody that does not have a challenge in that regard. And that never justifies, irrespective of what the challenges are. There's a standard that you must at least ensure you keep, because we call it a noble profession. And it's a noble man to act in a noble manner. And I think that's the critical mass. If you become a lawyer, you must recognize that there are some things that I cannot expose myself to, no matter the temptation, no matter the challenge. Because ultimately, we are a mirror for society, and we should ensure that we mirror the right values for society. Sorry, it's raining heavily here, and so there might be some background humming. That's the rain on the roof.
I can sense that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, I know you made reference to, in your previous comments, I think you talked about the age, talking about globalization and technological developments. Now, will you say that these developments have also opened up some areas of practice for lawyers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that globalization itself has forced lawyers in Nigeria particularly, and maybe across the developing world, to open up their practice, at least to other practice areas, emerging areas, because even if you're not practicing in that field, there are industries, multinationals out there who want to do business in your country, in some evolving, emerging fields, and they need legal services in your country. And so that opens to us opportunities. Secondly, globalization and the businesses that come with it has also increased the regulatory environment. If we have no GSM, perhaps we would have no NCC. In the days when all we had was NITEL, we had no NCC regulating that industrial space. But when we had GSM and we had private players come into Nigeria, then we needed a regulatory regime to also run that space. And the same thing is happening with the IT development. We're now going to deal with that space. So definitely, to a large extent, globalization has helped economies to grow, and also by the ripple effect, professions to capacity.
Good. Now, sir, how do you see Nigerian lawyers prepared for the challenges thrown up by this, by globalization and technological developments?
Well, I believe that over the years, this has been a conversation that has gone on. And whether we like it or not, as lawyers, Nigerian lawyers, or lawyers practicing in Nigeria, we are part of the global village. And to that extent, we must be prepared if, for instance, here we are having this interview virtually. Assuming you are a client and I'm your solicitor and you are calling from another country and we needed to have this kind of engagement and there's pandemic out there. Did we not find a way out of it? Of course we did. The same thing globalization has done to create opportunities, and I think Nigerian lawyers should ramp up their technology, should ramp up their knowledge and skill in evolving areas, in emerging areas, as well as acquire the necessary skill to be able to compete internationally. And I think those are ramping up the necessary skills to some, maybe additional education. Some other aspects of themselves that they probably have ignored for a while. And many of us would have to do something different or do something different in the advent of globalization and technological development. Otherwise, you might be run out of business by technology. You might be run out of business by emerging tech to an extent that the template can do the work that a human being is doing, and it's just a click away. So you must be able to show additional value to our clients so that you are not just seen as just the dime a dozen, as they say of lawyers. And lawyers are a dime a dozen. But when you become more valuable than that dime, then no technology can make you become more important because you have additional value to put on the desk.
As an experienced lawyer and a player in the globalized legal markets that you have, in specific terms, what are those skill sets that you think today's lawyers need to have in order to flourish in the profession, in the practice?
Well, I think the starting point for anyone who wants to, let me put it this way. Imagine the person who wants to leave the village for the first time to the big city of Lagos. He's probably never seen more than a bicycle. Let's say he's never seen more than a bicycle. He must first have a range. It starts with the renewing of the mind to understand that things can be done better, things can be done differently, faster, quicker. More efficient, willing to take it on. Then you need to look at what skill sets do I need. Do I need to have additional education in particular fields? Do I need to take up a master's degree? Do I need to do some professional development courses? Do I need to add on to my skill a bit more of others are requirements that we also need to do? Thirdly, it's not just law that make the fact that you have the knowledge of the law that makes you learn it. It is the vastness of your learning that makes you learn it as a lawyer. And so if all we have is the knowledge of the law, you might find yourself, a bit like fish out of water when you have to advise on some business side of things, because you have no knowledge of business, you only have knowledge of the law. And sometimes law is to aid business, but it is how you apply it that facilitates that business. And so if you do not know how to apply it to facilitate the business of your client will move on to the next shop. And then technology. You have to develop skills. You can communicate by electronic mail. You don't have to wait for the post to deliver your letters. You need to move faster. You need some promptness to your advisory that you are giving to clients all over the world. You must be able to communicate with them at the click of a button. You have to be able to reach out to them at short notice. You must be able to have a turnaround time that meets the demands and the needs of your clients. And so it's a whole spectrum of changes, evolution, and development that you have to embrace. Even if you have embraced it as an individual, what of the firm where you work? What of the law firm itself? Is it now ramping up its technological space? Has it acquired internet connectivity for all lawyers, or do you still have to go to one room that you call computer room, where that's the only place where you use computer? Those are things we have seen over time. But in the days we live, this is on everybody's desk, on everybody's handheld, and everybody moves at a pace faster. Can you work remotely out of your office, or you must always be behind your desk before you can work? Those are things that the firm now needs to begin to build capacity to be able to handle and manage. Can you hold an AGL session remotely, virtually? Can you hold a hearing virtually? When the whole world was on lockdown, did business stop all over the world? Did your own business stop? If your business stopped while others are going on with theirs, then something must definitely need to give. And so these are the things that we all need to begin to do and do efficiently if we would remain relevant in a global world.
Thank you, sir. Now we have to come back to our starting point, talking about some other areas of practice that lawyers, young lawyers, can also engage, apart from the traditional ones. Now, sir, what do you think would encourage lawyers to venture into all those other areas, apart from the traditional ones that we've become used to?
Well, usually everything starts with a vision. Whatever you do starts with a vision. When you live in school, you must have a vision of, okay, when I graduate, this is what I want to do. Sometimes it changes in the course of life because you only know in part. As you mature, you begin to see other things that you didn't see before. So if you probably thought that, oh, I just want to go to Ministry of Justice, I want to be a state counsel. But you never knew that there are other agencies of state where you can still be useful as a state counsel, apart from Ministry of Justice. But when you finish, allow yourself to be educated by the market too. Because education within the four walls of the university or an institution is still limited to the learning available there. When you get to the marketplace, there's additional learning that you also pick up. So that begins to drive your passion. And then also give yourself the opportunity to discover what is available. Don't just be rigid that this is what I want to do. That's how far you know. Why don't you give yourself the opportunity to know a bit more before you choose what you want to do? I say that particularly to our young lawyers who probably think that, oh, litigation is too strenuous, it's too much of work. You get to court, the court is not sitting, you travel far and near, far and wide, you don't get results as and as when due. A case goes on for 5 years. That's frustrating. I don't think I want to do litigation. That's as far as you know. I would like to go into corporate practice. I just want to go into a telecommunications company and be a legal advisor. To a bank, your employer on, you are reviewing documentation and stuff like that. But how can you effectively advise your employer if you yourself have not been tested on the battle? debentures, mortgages, trusts, and all those kind of things. Yet, so here you are, working in a bank, reviewing debentures that have never been tested anywhere. So I always say that even if you're going to go call in-house, give yourself the opportunity of an exposure in a law firm. Spend like 2-3 years in a place where you are given sufficient exposure to understand the vagrancies, to understand the tricks, to understand the reasons why some terminologies are used in a way that only the law can explain. So, but when you have the benefit of that additional knowledge, and you are more
Hello, sir.
useful to your
Okay. Sir, do you think that the fact that in Ministry of Justice, for instance, one can become a permanent secretary and solicitor general or a judge, if possible, then in practice, you can become a senior advocate of Nigeria. And if you go to academia, you can become a professor, that these are some of the attractive factors that encourage people to go into those three traditional areas than some other areas that people less attempt. Hello, sir.
I would say it is not improbable. It is not improbable that some would have gone into these sectors because of those motivations. But you see, you cannot see this out because everybody had a product of Nigeria.
While it is painful that the internet connectivity problem brought the conversation to a sudden end, I must admit that the learned Sikh has convincingly made his points to show that there are many other areas of career opportunities for Nigerian lawyers, especially in the 21st century. So I just provided these 3 slides to show at a glance so many other areas that lawyers can venture into, especially young lawyers. So to that extent, the conversation has come to an end. So thanks for your attention.